The fall of Lunchly. What happens when three of the most controversial YouTubers team up to create an even more controversial product that is a knockoff of another product? As you'd expect, the product is gonna fail. So Logan Paul, mrbeast, and KSI teamed up to create Lunchly, their version of the widely popular kids meal, Lunchables. While Lunchly gained a bit of traction at first, it didn't take long for the internet to spot the bad side of the product, and oh boy did things go wrong. Today, we're diving deep into the fall of Lunchly, so keep watching because you don't want to miss this. The Power Trio's big bet. At this point, YouTubers don't just want to be YouTubers anymore. It's not enough to rake in millions from ad revenue and sponsorships. They want to build empires. And fair enough, right? We've seen creators like Emma Chamberlain launch successful coffee brands, Hank and John Green sell everything from socks to best-selling books, and of course, KSI, Logan Paul, and mrbeast turn their online clout into billion-dollar businesses with Prime and Feastables. So when these big internet guys announced Lunchly, a ready-to-eat meal kit to take on Lunchables, it seemed like a guaranteed win. A healthier, better alternative to the classic lunchbox favorite? With three of the biggest YouTubers behind it, it sounded like a cash machine. But instead of flying off the shelves, Lunchly got absolutely roasted across social media. And the backlash didn't come from just anywhere. Within days, influencers and experts started tearing into the product. Famous YouTuber Dan TDM called them out for selling crap to kids who don't know better. Another famous figure, Dr. Brian Stutterer, basically called out all their weird marketing tricks like rebranding sodium as electrolytes. And the internet, as always, didn't hold back. People were posting about moldy cheese, flimsy packaging, and misleading health claims. Suddenly, the golden trio of YouTube was on the defensive, scrambling to fight back against the criticism. So what went wrong? How did a product backed by three of the world's biggest influencers fail this hard? To understand that, we first need to see what they were trying to replace. Lunchly versus Lunchables. KSI, mrbeast, and Logan Paul marketed Lunchly as a healthier alternative to Lunchables. And if we're to be honest, Lunchables are not healthy. They never have been. These little meal kits have been a staple of American childhoods for decades, but they're ultra-processed, packed with sodium, and honestly just not great for you. Even Consumer Reports has warned parents against giving them to their kids regularly. But Lunchables were never really about nutrition. They were about convenience. A lunch you could toss into a backpack with zero effort. Kids loved them because, well, who doesn't want to build tiny cracker sandwiches? And parents bought them because they were cheap and easy. So along comes Lunchly, promising to be a healthier alternative. But is it really? On paper, it does make a few improvements. There's less sugar thanks to swapping Capri Sun for Prime, which is artificially sweetened. The sodium and saturated fat are slightly lower. The cheese is real instead of some weird processed cheese product. And they threw in some extra vitamins to make it sound impressive. It's all the right buzzwords to make parents feel like they're making a better choice. But then you start looking closer, and it gets a little sketchy. Instead of being upfront about sodium levels, Lunchly leans heavily on the term electrolytes, as if that suddenly makes it healthier. That's just branding nonsense. Sodium is an electrolyte, sure, but calling it that doesn't magically make it good for kids. And then there's the calorie problem. Lunchly's turkey cracker kit has just 230 calories. That's not even close to enough for a kid's lunch. To actually get a full meal out of it, they'd have to eat almost 3 Lunchlys, which would completely blow past the recommended sodium intake. It also doesn't meet USDA school lunch standards, which require 80% of grains to be whole grains. Lunchly has none. And then there's the quality issue. It didn't take long before people started posting videos of moldy cheese and flimsy plastic packaging. If you're going to charge a premium and market yourself as better, you'd better at least get the fundamentals right. Instead, it just feels like they rushed to get something out, slapped their names on it, and expected people to buy it without question. The sketchy side of Lunchly. But even with that, they still managed to kick things off smoothly. How, you might ask? Well, if there's one thing influencers have mastered, it's marketing. They know exactly how to make something seem amazing, even when the reality is far from it. And Lunchly, that's marketing overdrive. The way they talk about the product, you'd think it was some revolutionary, game-changing meal for kids. But when you look past the flashy branding and influencer hype, things start to get really weird. For starters, there's the ingredient transparency, or lack of it. When brands are truly proud of their product, they scream about it from the rooftops. But Lunchly, instead of clearly outlining what's inside, they're busy talking about electrolytes. That's right, not the quality of the food, not the ingredients, not the sourcing, just electrolytes. As if that somehow makes up for everything else. And the best part, it's not even that special. The main electrolyte they're pushing is potassium, which sure is useful, but not the one your body sweats out the most. That will be sodium, which they conveniently avoid talking about in real detail. Then, of course, there's the mold issue. A few weeks after Lunchly hit shelves, people started posting videos of cheese covered in mold. And not just a little mold, like full-blown, this belongs in a laboratory mold. And this isn't some random once-in-a-blue-moon thing. There have been multiple reports, which raises the question, how bad is their quality control? For a brand trying to position itself as premium, you'd think they'd at least make sure the food isn't rotting inside the package. Speaking of the package, yeah, that's another disaster. Instead of something strong and well-designed, Lunchly comes in cheap, flimsy plastic that feels like it could snap if you look at it the wrong way. Compared to Lunchables, which has had decades to refine its packaging, Lunchly feels rushed and low effort. And for something that's supposed to be better, why does it look and feel worse? A history of dubious products. If Lunchly was an isolated case, maybe people will be more forgiving. Maybe it'd be seen as a good idea with poor execution, something that just needed a little tweaking. But here's the thing, this isn't the first time these guys have sold people on something that wasn't quite what it seemed. Take mrbeast's Feastables. When it first launched, it was marketed as a healthier chocolate bar. Fewer ingredients, no junk, just high-quality chocolate. And for a while, that was true. But fast forward to today, and the recipe has changed. The bars now have more sugar, more calories, and ingredients that aren't much different from Hershey's. Yet the original healthy branding is still being pushed, even though the product itself no longer matches that claim. That's not just misleading, it's deliberate deception. Then there's Prime, Logan Paul, and KSI sports drink. The big selling point? More electrolytes, fewer calories. But what they don't tell you is that Prime doesn't actually replace the electrolytes you need most. Your body primarily loses sodium when you sweat, but Prime is overloaded with potassium instead. It's a clever trick. Give people a drink that tastes good and technically has electrolytes, but it's not in the right balance. And again, it's not outright lying, but it's definitely manipulative marketing. And Logan Paul? Well, where do we even start? This is the guy who hyped up CryptoZoo, a blockchain-based game that turned out to be a total scam. People invested millions expecting a legitimate project, only for Logan to vanish when things fell apart. And now, instead of owning up to it, he's busy suing the guy who exposed him. KSI's record isn't as bad, but he's no stranger to controversy. And instead of handling criticism maturely, he tends to lean into conflict, turning every disagreement into some sort of battle. Which sure might work when you're selling boxing matches, but when you're trying to convince people to buy food, probably not the best approach. When you look at the track record of these guys, it's hard to ignore the pattern. Overhyped, overmarketed products that aren't as great as they claim to be. Whether it's Feastables slowly becoming junk food, Prime misleading consumers about its benefits, or Logan's long history of shady business deals, it all starts to add up. So when Lunchly came along, promising to be this amazing new alternative to Lunchables, people weren't just judging the product itself. They were judging the people behind it. And with their history, is it really any surprise that people were skeptical? As of now, they haven't officially ended Lunchly, but there are rumors circulating that production might end anytime soon. So let's just say combining 3 of the most controversial figures to make a kid's meal kit isn't such a great idea.